Earlier today, ESPN was the first to report that the head of the NFL Players Union is facing conflict of interest issues. In addition to his duties as the NFLPA boss, Lloyd Howell is being paid as a part-time consultant for a private equity firm. It's called the Carlyle Group, seeking minority ownership in NFL franchises. But is it appropriate for Howell to keep his consulting job, considering its NFL ownership interests, while still representing the league's players? Further complicating things for Howell was a deal to keep a January arbitration ruling under wraps, those findings stemming from collusion allegations in the wake of Deshaun Watson's fully guaranteed $230 million deal from back in 2022. So what does this mean? Let's bring in CBS Sports NFL insider Jonathan Jones to help us explain this. JJ, what is going on with Howell in his role as head of the Players Union, and has he done anything wrong at this point?
Yeah, no wrongdoing in terms of anything legal, right? And I want to be clear that when it comes to Lloyd Howell, when he was installed and selected as the executive director of the NFLPA almost 2 years ago, a lot of this stuff was known to the NFLPA. They had a search firm, Russell Reynolds, who had really thoroughly vetted him. They knew about his background. They knew about the boards on which he served and the places that he consulted. One of them was, in fact, the Carlyle Group. But what's interesting is that in 2023, in the summer of 2023, the Carlyle Group, it was a private equity firm, and it still is today. But in 2024, they were approved by the NFL to be one of the few private equity groups that can buy into NFL teams, right? So remember that from last year, where a private equity group could buy up to 10% of an NFL team, and they'd have to hold that for about 6 years or so, or at least 6 years. And this is a way for a lot of NFL owners to get a quick trip to the ATM, if you will. And so that is where a sort of conflict comes in, Chris, because he, the leader of labor, is consulting with a group that can buy into management. And so no one is saying that it is a conflict of interest or that any sort of wrongdoing has taken place. But the perception certainly exists. There's no doubt about it. And it could potentially become a conflict of interest. The Carlyle Group still has not bought into any NFL team yet, so it's hard to prove that there's any true conflict. But as we all know, if enough people believe in the perception of a conflict of interest, well, then there is a conflict of interest.
Look, this is a big deal. Got to dot your I's and cross your T's here, and I know you've been working hard on this thing. I think the average fan is going to be like, what does this really mean? Like, is this important, and why is this important?
Yeah, so first of all, the average fan has no reason to know who Lloyd Howell is, right? It's hard to really, for any fan who watches on Sundays, to actually truly care about who leads the labor group, right? Maybe they should, we could argue that, whatever, they don't. And that's okay. Right now, it is in the middle of the summer when we're talking about Mount Rushmores and all quarter-century teams. And so, frankly and truly, Chris, there's not a whole lot else in the NFL world to talk about. And so now we have this palace intrigue. Now we have what's going on with the NFLPA. Oh, this is interesting. There was a 61-page collusion arbitration grievance and decision that was secret, that was private, that came out a couple of weeks ago. And now we have more reporting about this sort of potential conflict of interest. But what is at issue for the players is if this is the leadership that they ultimately wanted when they selected him. And I also want to go back, when he was selected, it was a very unusually private selection. They kept things really under wraps, so much so that it's not entirely known who all the other finalists were for this position. But right now there is labor peace. The union and the NFL agreed in 2020 to a CBA that will run through the 2030 season, so all the way through March 2031. But as we talk about an 18th game potentially being added to the slate, as we talk about an expansion of international, as we talk about potential new broadcast deals, as you talk about more private equity firms and changes to the salary cap calculation, all of those things that are currently being discussed around the NFL and among owners, this is the guy who is leading the other side of it. And with those questions surrounding him, one can safely assume that there aren't a lot of continuing dialogues as it relates to those major conversations, because right now he has to figure out what's going on with himself and the NFLPA.
So, JJ, what comes next in this?
Yeah, I mean, quite simply, there's two real decisions that have to be made. First of all, Lloyd Howell has to determine for himself whether he will remain as a paid consultant for the Carlyle Group or not. This, again, there is a perception of a conflict of interest. Is it worth it to Lloyd Howell? We don't know how much he's being paid by the Carlyle Group, but one can assume it is in the six figures. He makes more than $3 million annually from the NFLPA, and now he's entering the third year of a 5-year term. Is it worth it for him to continue in this role? Because he got a heads up from an employee of the union a while ago. Hey, is this something that you want to continue doing? And clearly, it was something he wanted to continue doing. Now it is out in the public. And now the membership, and that is to mean the players in the NFL, they're going to see how he reacts. So the first decision is his. The second decision rests with the players. Depending on what Lloyd Howell does, do they say, he's our guy, and we're going to continue marching forward with him? Or, depending on how he answers it, will the players say, that's not the right guy to lead us into the next chapter of the NFL and of the NFL Players Association? So those are the questions that are facing him right now in the wake of that collusion agreement finally making its way to light, along with the understanding that there was a confidentiality agreement as well. We'll see what winds up happening. I'm not of the mind that anything is imminent in terms of this week. We're probably talking more weeks rather than days before we get the answers to either of those questions. All
right, and training camp's about ready to get going over the next week or two in the NFL. Our Jonathan Jones doing a good job making this a little bit more palatable for the rest of us out here who are trying to understand what's going on. You can read more about this on the NFL page at cbssports.com. And, of course, we are your place all the time. It was a crazy show for NFL news today. We finished with that, really. We started by wondering if Patrick Mahomes is too out of shape to win again, right? We hit both sides here in the middle of July.